what's up? I'm Juliana and you're watching Sprocket Girl, and we are back in Joel's garage. And today Joel's going to show us how he's going to install a larger or a bigger volume spacer in his rear shock. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes, so right now there is a specialized patent rear volume spacer in that shock that they also worked with Fox on. And when we go through that, I'll kind of show you the size of it and current situation. But yeah, I'm going to put a larger volume spacer in there to allocate for some more ramp up in the shock and make it more progressive. This specialized stump jumper is a little more linear, kind of an older dated model with a more linear design in the linkage. And so trying to allocate a little more ramp up and things like that to help with the bottom out resistance.
So how do you think that will affect your actual riding, or like when you're doing drops or jumps?
My hope is, and I'm not sure yet, but my hope is that it'll still retain the suppleness up top on the initial stroke, and then same and more mid-stroke, but on the end of that stroke when the shock is getting to near being bottomed out, it'll provide more resistance. So that if I take a big jump or a big huck off of a rock, I'm not going to just totally bottom out that shock. It'll provide a little more support for me. So.
And just out of curiosity for people who'd want to do this too, how much did you spend more or less for this?
So total, what I bought is the volume spacer kit that fits a number of different shocks, rear shocks, and some more Fox float fluid, which is their own specialized fluid for that shock. And so overall the kit was what, 20 to 30 bucks I want to say, and then the fluid was another 10 to 15. So
okay, that's like a really good,
under 50 is probably a good estimate for that. You should put that in the video.
It's just like a fun part. Get it out. Alright. Let's get to it.
Cool, I like it. Let's do that one more time.
Alright. If you like this channel, consider subscribing to it or liking some of the videos, and you can also hit that bell button to get notified every time new content comes out.
Cool, so I just want to walk you guys through verbally what I'm going to do first, and then kind of give you like a mental outline of things to come. The first thing I'm going to do is deflate the shock. Really important when you do that to make sure it's deflated, because this thing can shoot off and potentially hurt you really badly. So we're going to deflate the shock, and then we'll kind of go through the process of pulling the canister off. On my specific bike, I don't need to take my shock out to put a volume spacer in there, because everything is nicely centrally located for me. Thank you, Specialized. So yeah, I'm going to do that and then pull that back, and then kind of show you the insides of the shock, and then what's in there right now, and then what I'm going to put in. And then we'll put a little fluid in there, screw the canister back up, and then reinflate back to the pressure I had existing. So
is this something that's particularly easy to do on a Specialized bike and harder on other types or other brands?
Yeah, just because of the specialized design of their the specific linkage that they have existing on their bikes, it's really accessible to get that shock, and you can unscrew the canister without taking it off the frame.
Oh, that's really nice.
But some bikes like Evil or even any other, a lot of the DW bikes are kind of like that too. It's hard to get to that shock, so you might have to actually remove it from the frame to access, just to put a volume spacer in. So
we're lucky.
Cool. So I'm going to first unscrew the cap on my air chamber, essentially. I'll take my shock pump. This is any old shock pump. This is specifically a RockShox one. But if you have any kind of special shock pump, it'll work. Just screws right on there. It's a Schrader valve, so it shouldn't be any issue. If you take a look at the gauge, I'm going to get a reading of what my pressure is right now. So right between 100 and 150. It's actually needs to be a little higher up, but we'll estimate that and kind of measure back up to it after we put the volume spacer in, so that we can keep that same sag that we had. Cool, so we got it screwed up here, and then I'm going to use the button on the back side to deflate. It's good to use the tool to do this versus trying to hit it with a screwdriver or something. You can damage that Schrader valve.
Is there a reason why you're not letting the air out all at once? I noticed you're kind of like pressing on the button.
To be honest with you, it's hard to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's designed to let out small increments
disperse,
at once, so that you don't screw up the sag on your shock. So we are totally out of air here, and so now we're going to start the next process. So we've taken out air, and now we can safely remove the air canister. It screws on normally, just like any other thing, right? Righty tighty, lefty loosey. So I'm just going to grab the canister. It shouldn't be so tight that you can't do it by hand. If for some reason you needed to undo it with a tool of some sort, you'd want to use something like this, some kind of a rubber strap or wrench to wrap it around there and actually undo it like that. But for this one, it should be nicely, at least able to be broken by hand. And so what I'll do is I'll just unscrew it just like I normally would, and you'll see that it's actually unscrewing from the inside of the shock. So it's threaded actually inside there. Just unscrew that. And now we can pull it back without any resistance or weird issues with doing that.
Nice.
So if you see, I did open this up prior to actually doing this job, but you can see there's some tool or some pieces in there. These are actually butted up against the volume spacer inside. So we'll show you that when we reinstall, but you can see the shaft's in good shape, no scratches or anything like that, which is always a good thing. There is some fluid on there, so I'll probably add just a little bit more of that float fluid before I reinstall everything. So we've pulled the canister back, and it tends to spring forward like it should if it's working properly. So we'll just kind of hold it there, and then I'm using a flathead screwdriver to kind of pry this piece out of here, the existing volume spacer. You could use any kind of needle nose pliers or something like that. So I'm just going to toy with this a little bit. If you end up using a flathead screwdriver, be very, very careful not to scratch the stanchion, because this can cause air leaks and other complications that you don't want to mess with. So pry that thing out of there. Cool, so we've got that thing out. And because this is a specific specialized / Fox part, there are no markings on volume, really, of what this thing is. So what I'm going to do is compare it with what my existing kit has, and then just kind of estimate the volume of it, and then go up a size in my volume that I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm over here with my kit. These are all the different sizes that came within this 80301 250 kit from Fox, and it fits a variety of shocks like we said earlier. These red and orange spacers fit a larger canister shock, so maybe your deluxes of some sort with the piggyback on them. We'll set those aside because we're not going to use them. They don't fit the diameter of my canister. So I have the existing spacer in my hand, and I'm kind of just matching it up with what I have here that fits the diameter. So I know it's going to be the same size there, and same as well there. And so I'm going to now pick, and I already pre-sized this, but now I can kind of estimate exactly what that volume is that was existing in there. And this one is a 0.4 cubic inches size, and so it's roughly about the same exactly thing that was in there. And I want to go up in volume. So the next largest one, i.e. the largest one that came with the kit, is this yellow one, and it is a 0.6 cubic inches. And so we'll be installing this one. Again, it fits because it has the exact same diameter. Awesome. Okay, so I've opened up my float fluid from Fox, and I'm just going to apply a little bit on my spacer to where it's going to be hitting and making contact with my stanchion within the shock. And I'm applying it in the inside where it's going to be resting on there. And then I like to put a little bit on the back side because it does sit on that shock and it's going to be under pressure. So I want to make sure everything's lubricated well for that. A little bit inside can't hurt. And I'll move that around a little bit, coat it up. Okay, so I've put some float fluid on my volume spacer like we just prior did. And I'm going to pull my canister back and then pop this guy in there. Now, the pre-existing one was oriented such like this, so I just want to make sure I do the exact same thing I did before, or that was already in there, so it sits in that groove in the back.
So you want the kind of hollow part to face towards the shock, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So it's snapped into place, which we know we're in good shape for. And so now while I'm holding this canister back, I'm just going to put a little more fluid on that stanchion. And then I'll smear it around with my finger, just so everything's lubricated well.
So is it particularly important that you have like really clean fingers, or is that not such an issue?
It is very much an issue. You want to make sure you have clean hands when you're doing this. You don't want any sawdust or any kind of weird material within there, because it will break away and ruin the seals. Yeah. So now just checking to make sure there's some nice smooth movement in there. We're good to go. And now we can reinstall. What I will do also before I do that is actually put a little bit more of this float fluid on the external stanchion, so that it coats my seals. It's been a while since I've done this, since I rebuilt the shock, and so just want to make sure everything's nicely lubricated and working well.
Nice.
Cool. And so we'll wipe away the excess here in a second, but now we can just screw that thing back on there and reinflate. So now I'm going to reinflate the shock back up to the existing pressure I had in it before I did this, just to make sure that everything's tested correctly and then you can maintain your proper sag. So I'm going to inflate this all the way up to where I was before, which was right around 175, I believe. So here we go.
So I'm just curious, do you think that this is something that's worth doing for people who are maybe novice riders or not as aggressive riders as you are, or is it something that you would recommend more for like an advanced stage?
Primarily advanced riders is what I would say. Intermediate to advanced, you probably, because of technologies these days, you probably wouldn't have to be, mess too much with a very, very new shock design or rear linkage design, just because of the technologies and the kind of designs that have gone into it. So
yeah,
on a typical linear designed bike, like the Stumpy, it's going to be beneficial.
Yeah.
Whether or not the novice rider actually notices the difference, it's probably not going to happen.
Okay.
But
yeah, well, that was really great to learn that, and also for me, because maybe at some point I might do that as well. And yeah, I hope you guys learned something new here. And are you planning to ride soon and check it out?
Yeah, I'm actually heading to Buena Vista and Salida this weekend. And so maybe I'll keep you updated, who knows,
Yeah.
but I'm hoping to feel a difference and be pretty happy with it. We'll see. The nice thing is I have the old part, and so I can go back to it really, really easily if I need to. So.
Or you can post a comment and let us know how it
Yeah,
is.
maybe I'll keep you guys updated.
Cool, yeah, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and Joel, thanks so much for showing us this.
Yeah, no worries.
And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.